Okay. Now, obviously, we know that the cyber threat landscape is changing like on a daily basis, even almost by the hour. How is your company, Ingalls Security, going to keep up with all of this?
Well, that's a great question. There's a few ways. First of all, we get to see where bad things are happening, right? People call us when bad things have already happened. We get to go in and investigate and figure out, hey, this is fileless malware. That was a kind of a big deal last year, is we're looking at a lot. I mean, fileless malware has been around for a long time, but you take Eternal Blue exploit and you plug that onto a PowerShell script, and you take some other web-based capabilities, and you got yourself a brand new toy that can do all kinds of amazing things. We saw a lot of that last year, especially with the crypto currency miners. So that's an example of how things are changing. But again, we get to see that because we get called in to go fix problems, and that's when we discover, hey, it's a brand new tool, or it's a brand new capability. So we get to see that, and believe me, the cyber threat landscape is accelerating as far as change is concerned. I mean, we saw things in 2012. We saw the same tools 2 years later, basically the same framework that were used by the same kind of threat actors in the same areas of the world. And those tools had evolved significantly in 2 years. Those same threat actors are still out there cranking out brand new capabilities. And again, one of our biggest claims to ability to stay abreast of that is that we get to see it because of some of the clients that we work with. I mean, for example, we work with nonprofits that are out there helping spread the kind of, ideas that are ensconced in the Bill of Rights. Okay, so there are places in the world that certainly don't want that to happen. And guess who's coming after those nonprofits? The nation-state arm of, the cybersecurity attack capabilities of nation-states are going after nonprofits, for example. So we're able to see some pretty advanced capabilities deployed pretty early on, as opposed to, for example, the commercial world. I mean, some of the tools that we saw deployed against nonprofits in, say, 2013, 2014 evolved and got deployed into commercial environments a couple of years later, just because of the mission of some of our nonprofit clients and what that put them up against. So we get to see a lot of that. And again, I think that the cyber threat landscape is going to continue to evolve at a faster pace.
Okay. Now, from my research, and maybe I'm wrong, I do a lot of reading and writing about the cybersecurity industry, and I've noticed a shift now, the cyber attacker, where they're not just going like after servers and emails and like passwords. They now want to do like physical harm to an actual infrastructure of a city. So, I mean, I read some headlines where cyber attackers that have actually set off like tornado alarms. They've done other things like that to actually damage, do some potential damage to an infrastructure. Do you think that's going to be now the new shift for the cyber attacker?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can look back over the last 10 years and see where that's just become more prevalent, and here's why, in my opinion. It's because every day we trust computers for a little bit more. We trust computers and information technology, and the infrastructure of the world trusts those computers to make them more efficient, to deliver the kinds of goods and services that, as a civilization, we depend on to be delivered just in time, for example. So as we continue to trust information technology more and more for more important things, now we have pacemakers that have connections that allow remote management. But as we trust this capability, you're going to continue to see people find the other ways that this technology can be used and to create harm rather than to deliver good. That's just not going to change. There's always going to be a way to leverage technology to do things that it wasn't intended for. Okay, the problem and the reason this is going to continue to get worse is because we're just going to keep using technology for more and more important things. We're going to continue to trust it for more valuable activities, more valuable things. We're going to trust it with people's lives. We already do it. We're going to continue to do that more and more. And again, the problem there is that this technology may do that really well, but what else does it do? And how is it leveraged to create impact where it's desired by bad actors? So that's just going to continue to get worse, unfortunately.
Okay. Do you think cyber threats are just going to plateau out one day? I mean, cyber attackers are going to say, hey, I'm bored. I've had enough of this. I'm going to move on to something different, like maybe hijacking an airplane or something? I mean, is this going to all like plateau out and maybe evolve into something else, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, let's put it this way. I believe somebody at the FBI said not too long ago, only an idiot will rob a bank with a gun today, all right, because there's plenty of capability to steal money from financial institutions using the internet and computers. So I think that there's just going to be no. The answer is absolutely not. There's going to be a lot more activity by a lot of various capable threat actors, whether they're script kiddies or they're nation-state capable, nation-state sponsored, organized crime. I mean, you name it. That's just going to continue to grow. Why? Because there's opportunity. There's opportunity to leverage technology to do things that it wasn't designed for. And until we fix that problem, and by the way, I don't see that getting fixed anytime soon, this is not going to do anything but get worse. As far as hackers getting bored, I mean, I think first of all, the term hacker was originally not designed to connotate that this was a criminal. It was somebody who figured out the shortest path to an answer, and that's the opposite of bored, right? That's an enthusiast who is looking to get to the end goal as fast as possible. That's what a hacker is. Now, people think of hackers today as criminals, and certainly people who are criminals will always try to find the shortest path to whatever nefarious objective they have. Those are enthusiasts. They're not going to get bored at this.
Okay. Now, what do you think the biggest cyber threat will be out there? Is it going to be like ransomware, Bitcoin? What do you think the biggest threat to the average U.S. business will be?
Well, I think in the near term that user applications, the application space is going to continue to get worse. I think that, for example, the lack of multi-factor authentication is going to be the biggest problem in the next 2 to 3 years for organizations that lack it, but just because there's such low-hanging fruit. I mean, if an attacker knows that you don't have MFA installed, they're going to do what they can. They're going to be persistent in their attempts to compromise users in your application layer, such as email, and then from there commit all kinds of tomfoolery and create all kinds of problems for you. So I think that the user application layer, so to speak, is gonna be where most of the problems are. Now, down long term, I mean, it's really anybody's guess. Although I would say that as artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities ramp up, I think you will probably see some sort of arms race, maybe within the next 10 years, where you got, today you can buy, quote, artificial intelligence, machine learning solutions for cyber defense. And in some cases, maybe I don't know this, but it's possible that you could buy artificial intelligence agent systems that could be used for attack or for criminal activity or for geopolitical activity. Don't know yet. All I can tell you is that that's probably just over the horizon if it's not already here. And I think what you'll see is potentially an arms race condition where you've got defenders and attackers each using artificial intelligence to try to outsmart the other. One thing's for sure, things are not going to do anything but get faster, and that's really the best use case for AI, as far as I can tell in cybersecurity, is to do things faster. So there's a natural inclination there to leverage the technology as a way to improve your capabilities. So yeah, I see that coming over the horizon if it's not already here.
Okay, well, finally, we're in the business of helping the customers out and, so forth. Everybody's giving recommendations. What's your number one tip or tips that you can provide at the close of the show for people to protect themselves from a cyber threat or a business? Just like off the top of your head, like what can we do? I mean,
absolutely.
Software,
and
go
I'm
ahead.
glad you're asking. Yeah, no, I'm glad you're asking for this because I try to do this every chance I get to talk to people. I mean, step one is understand your information technology environment. How many computers do you have, as a business owner? And I'm talking mostly to business owners because government agencies, they should have a checklist that they can follow for this kind of stuff. But for a business owner, understand what it is you're using technology for. It may be that you don't need to use as much technology, or maybe you need to use better technology. But certainly do not use remote access or cloud services unless you are using two-factor or multi-factor authentication mechanisms. So if you don't have a username, something you are, a password, something you know, and a token, something you have, like something on your cell phone with that you can punch a number in with, or an SMS text, even though that's not as effective, then you need to get that immediately. If you're using Office or Office 365 G Suite or any other cloud-based email service, and you don't have multi-factor authentication as I just described, then you need to get it. Second is to understand how social engineering works, because, again, I just see this as very prevalent, and I see this as not being something that's going to resolve itself over time. But understanding how email social engineering attacks work, just getting some training around what to look for, getting some testing for your organization to say, hey, we had 100 people at the organization. 9 of them looked at the email and 3 of them clicked on it. Well, it's not bad, but that means chances are you're going to have an intrusion. So working down from there, getting better at that, and then finally making sure that you have a trusted advisor in cybersecurity. So somebody who, if you've got a question, you can go to them, and they may not have the answer immediately, but they'll figure it out because they're an expert and you trust them. That would be the third thing, is make sure you have a trusted advisor in cybersecurity.
Okay. Well, Jason, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it, and we look forward to us hopefully speaking with you again in the near future. Thank you so much for your time.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a great day.